The power reform, of course, electricity in the country, you all can blow your cheeks to some extent. Well, Mr. Sidon Adinuba joins us now. He's a special advisor to the Minister of Power. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure that as you drove here, you saw that everywhere was in darkness, because that's what's going on now. Well, first and foremost, could you just tell us, what's the latest arrangement now? Because ever since Kainji was shut down owing to that leak, are they out of it now?
Yes, I'm happy to announce that Kainji is back.
When?
Out of the four, yesterday, out of the 4 units, 3 are working. Before the end of today, the 4th one will be working. As of yesterday, Kainji was generating 235 megawatts. By the time it was shut down, it was generating 330. Don't forget the installed capacity of Kainji is 760 megawatts. It was built in 1968. Since it was built in 1968, Kainji had not been overhauled.
What was the cause of the leak?
Because of the 2 things: old age, built in 1968.
So it has not been overhauled ever since?
Yes. Second issue, poor maintenance, not overhauled since 1968. As a result, instead of producing 760 megawatts, it's been producing at best 450 megawatts in the last few years. But by the time it was shut down on Saturday,
so
it was producing 330.
How long is it going to take now to get to the end user since it's back? Since it was back?
No, it's improving. But this is a nationwide
I'm talking
problem.
about...
But Kainji is not the only problem. There is a more fundamental issue, which is gas. We have gas issues all over.
Let me put it in the way people out there will understand.
Yes.
They slept for some days in darkness. Since Kainji is back, when will that situation change a little bit?
No, it's already changing. But it's a gradual process. First of all, let me join the minister in apologizing to Nigerians for what has happened to them. We don't deserve this. And that is why the power sector reform is imperative. We have taken a particular trajectory over the years, and that trajectory has disappointed all of us. We therefore must change. It cannot be doing the same thing continuously and expect a different result. We are not taking a different direction, and that's what we call the power sector reform.
What is the state of the negotiation with the union workers? Because there's this talk almost everywhere that may be one of the greatest challenges if not properly handled.
Well, it's actually a challenge. We recognize they cannot do without the labor force. The most important element in development everywhere in the world is human capital. Countries like Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Korea do not have any mineral deposits, but they're highly advanced. Why? They have highly developed human resources. To quote the South Commission reports, man is both the beginning and the end, both the means and the end of development. We recognize the importance, the criticality of human beings in development. As a result, Professor Naj has been responsible for the most dramatic improvements in the welfare of the PN staff in the last 1 year.
Specifically?
I will give you maybe 3 or 4 instances. Number 1, payment of monetized benefits, 56 billion naira. 2, 50% increase in staff salaries. Number 3, setting aside a certain percentage of shares in the companies to be privatized exclusively for the staff of the PHCN.
You say 53% increase?
50%.
50%.
Yeah, with effect from June last year. And the 4th example I'm going to give you, conversion of the casual workers, about 11,000 of them, to permanent staff with retroactive effects. Of course, we can talk about the 5th factor, development of human capital through a deliberate, conscious efforts. Since 1989, for example, there has not been structured training for the PSN staff. Before 1989, if you were employed as a fresh graduate, for example, an engineer, you'll be sent first to the training school in Surulere, from there to the training school at Ijara, and finally to the training school in Kainji. Over 2 years of training. Without undergoing this training, you will not be allowed to handle any equipment. So these people were well trained. Unfortunately, since 1989, nothing like that. So no courses, no training. So Professor Naji himself, being a widely regarded professor for engineering, said it's not appropriate. He had decided to make NAPTIN a world-class institution. NAPTIN means National Power Training Institute of Nigeria, established in 2009, but grossly underfunded. Excuse me.
No, pardon us for buttoning, because
in this year's budget,
we don't have
there is a provision for 4 billion naira for NAPTIN. NAPTIN is modeled on the,
I think you have to let us come in here, because we've lost loads of time, and
I do apologize.
Yes, that's why we're not even taking the news now, so we can see what we can cover. Let's see how we can break it down for the average Nigerian. As Chamberlain did say earlier on, it's been darkness quite, I think, lately till about this time, about the weekend, even this morning, and people are asking, when you talk about privatization and you talk about power sector reforms, when we had the Nigerian Electricity Power Authority, which was NEPA, by the time it changed to PHCN, wasn't that a kind of privatization that we saw then, that we're still talking about privatization till this moment, and still no light?
Privatization, ECN? No, ECN was not purely government-owned.
Good.
By privatization, you are referring to transferring the majority shares from the public sector to the private sector. That is the basic elementary definition of privatization.
So what exactly is happening at this point in time? Because the other time we spoke with the minister, there was quite a huge improvement. We had him on the phone here on Sunrise Daily.
Yes.
But again, things have gone the way it was almost before.
No. Clearly, we are much better. As of now, we are producing over 3,000 megawatts. But there are a lot of challenges. I've spoken about gas issues. You take, for instance, the repair being carried out by Chevron in Delta States. We lost about 30 million standard cubic feet. Also, when Shell began to repair its own facility, also in Chevron, also in Delta, what we call the Escravos Lagos Gas Project, we lost 90 million standard cubic feet. On the whole, about 120 million. And we have some other places. On the whole, we lost 625 megawatts.
Yes, but losses all the way. So what's responsible for the loss of the
gas
cubic feet of gas?
There are a lot of things. First of all, repairs and sometimes leakages. We do not have enough. You and I know very well some of these plants were cited for political reasons, cited with their consideration for gas pipelines, and sometimes we have gas pipelines, no molecules, that is gas itself. This is what we inherited, and that has been there for only since July.
Yeah, what is it doing about it?
These problems one by one. It's not something we can solve overnight. We thank Nigerians for their patience. We apologize for all this. We promise them a better future. We are on the way.
You've given us a history of Kainji and how it was established. Was it 1968?
Yes.
And and you told us that the capacity was 720.
760 megawatts.
That was the installed capacity then,
yes.
And then now it's producing less than 450 megawatts,
yes,
right?
It is, yeah.
One would have thought that that would be one of the things that will be high on the priority list of this particular administration.
It is.
To
What is going on right
Kainji.
now?
Is there a timeline for that Nigerians can point to say, okay, by this time we hope to be having this amount of electricity, by this time we should have improved to this time? Do you have a timeline for the power sector reform?
Yeah, do not forget, we launched the roadmap for power sector reform. We are following it, but of course there is no one can follow it 100%. These are projections. As you work, sometimes you're not in absolute control of certain factors. We have made some progress. Going by the timetable, by May this year, the second quarter of this year, we will be privatizing. But due to some changes in the larger environment, it's been shifted to October. So we do have challenges here and there. We're getting over them.
It's very interesting. The
most essential thing is that it is working, and there is tremendous confidence in the power sector reform in both Nigeria and in the international community.
The roadmap was launched, I think, sometime
August 26, 2010, at Eco Hotel,
exactly,
by the president.
I remember very clearly.
Yes.
Now, the thing is this. I remember it was also a book. It was in form of a book.
It's a document. Yes.
So if it was a document, definitely not all Nigerians have access to it. Are there any plans for, say, the Ministry of Power to make it very clear so that Nigerians can actually follow in real terms what exactly is going on in improving their lot in terms of power supply?
Yeah, we have embarked on continuous public enlightenment. But beyond that, all this is actually available on the net. You access, I can actually give you the address right now, www.nigeriapowersectorreform.org. Anybody can browse it. And Channels, I'm happy to announce, is on the age of cutting edge technology. So you can read all this.
You forgot to have power challenges, anybody can browse it, and then internet connectivity. Those are big issues, even though people gloss over it, forgetting that that's the reality. How much do we currently generate now?
Sorry?
How much do we currently generate now?
Well, I know it's over 3,000. I haven't got the reports of yesterday. I've been in Lagos, but once I leave here, I'll call them and I'll get the current figures. But as we have explained to Nigerians, it's not just a matter of brandishing figures. So we're generating this.
Sorry a moment. PowerSectorReform.org.
Does it get to your home?
A moment. PowerSectorReform.org.
Yeah. NigeriaPowerSectorReform.org.
Okay, because we just checked that out, and something else came up, and so we're going to take you up on that.
All right. Yeah.
But then,
no, please, as I've said, the key question is: does this power get to you? It's not just enough to generate. Does it get to you? There are some issues. For example, there are some local issues where you live. You may have a local transformer problem, so we generate doesn't get to you. Sometimes have transmission problems, which is something a lot of Nigerians know about.
Okay.
These are the things we're addressing.
Tell us about this, if there's any truth in it, because at the moment we understand that.
I think, sorry, Chamberlain, I think your IT.
You got it?
Something is wrong with it, right?
They had to really work on your website.
There you go. Maybe our fault, but go ahead.
Because something else is.
You really can have access to the website.
www.nigeriapowerSectorReform.org.
It's not there.
.org. And it's telling me it cannot open the page.
Go ahead.
So that's one.
There's no light on the page.
Your IT department needs to check it out so that they know what's going on.
But could be a tiny hitch.
Is there any truth in what we hear about the agreement reached in 2009 with electricity workers? They say it expires in August 2011, and so they're supposed to renegotiate on April, is it 16? What's with that story now?
No. What exactly? Agreement on what? There are three issues that are related before the workers. One has to do with the underfunding of the current pension scheme. It's very important. Two, who takes over the responsibility of paying the existing pensioners of the PACM? The money available for them would not last beyond 1 year. That's another critical question. And the third question, what are what may be called the severance or retirement benefits of the PACM staff? These are the main issues.
What about the minimum wage? They say it's a major issue also.
Let me ask you a question. Last year, with effect from June, there was a 50% increase in their salaries across the board. As a result, the monthly wage bill ballooned from 11 billion naira to about 18. And somebody is asking you for an additional 53%. How do you justify that? With your substantial improvement in productivity, even here in Channels, can somebody increase their salary by 50% in June? Excuse me.
No, the question popped up because...
The question I'm asking you is a matter of rationality.
No. Let's put it in context, because you mentioned three issues, of which that was not one. So we thought, since we saw that, we said those it was an error by those who published it. So it's just for clarification.
You asked for another matter, minimum wage, and I explained to you, it's a non-issue because...
Okay, it's a non-issue.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I've explained to you. Now, even the 50%, most of the companies could not pay. Professor Naji had to prevail on the president to make available 9 billion naira to cover the months of June, July, and August.
That's a good
And the
one.
money
But again,
has been
is
paid.
the ministry having any issue with the unions?
Nothing serious. I've pointed out to you there are 3 issues we are discussing. There were negotiations from 18th February to 24th. These issues were not resolved simply because some of the leaders were not keen on discussing these issues. They were more keen on demonizing Professor Naji.
Really?
Said, oh, he had closed down the corporate headquarters.
What would they benefit
had done this
from doing that?
Because, Mrs. Adinuba, Nigerians would really want to know if they have any enemy or any stumbling block somewhere. Everyone needs this electricity to be fixed.
Yeah.
And if we're reading, I'm quite sure you saw some of the headlines over the weekend, just yesterday, that some unions and some people, but let's restrict it to the unions, don't want this thing done. So that is why people are a little bit worried. Why are the unions, electricity unions, a strong part of them, don't want the electricity fixed for us as a nation?
Well, I'm happy. You and I have read newspapers. They have repeatedly...
Is there any truth in those stories we read?
Excuse me, let me give you the facts. You now conclude. You and I have read newspaper articles, news reports. We've seen this on television, including channels, where they say they are opposed to the power sector reform. And I find it very strange. When he was campaigning last year, the first item in the campaign manifesto of the president is power sector reform. In other words, the privatization. On the basis of these things, Nigerians voted overwhelmingly for him, in their millions. Number 2, there is a law called the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, enacted in 2005. This is the basis of privatization. Now, what I find very curious is that some unionists will say no, that the will of the Nigerian people will not be respected. Whether Nigerians want power sector reform or not, we are opposed to it because of our personal interests. Okay. They say this is repeatedly, and we take them seriously. Excuse me, this is not the very first time they have opposed reforms meant for the benefit of the Nigerian people. Let me give you 2 instances. When there was an attempt to liberalize the telecom sector, the workers in United said no way over their dead bodies. I gave the reason that if you opened up the telecom sector, that the national security will be compromised. They gave the instance of what happened in 1973 in Chile, when the socialist government of Allende was overthrown by a CIA-sponsored telecom coup plot.
Okay.
Excuse me.
No, we'll go to background.
Can I give other instances? An attempt to liberalize aviation.
No, what we'll do is
the
we'll
workers
find out
of the
from
union
them,
said no. Excuse me.
Now that you've made the point,
I want us to appoint to facts and logic.
I'm afraid we're out of time, but just as we said initially, we lost a lot of time.
The trade unionists are
we get your point.
To national interest.